Kawasaki Ki 61 Hien. The Kawasaki Ki 61 Hien, also known as the Flying Swallow, was a Japanese fighter aircraft used during World War II by the Imperial Japanese Army Air Service. It was initially mistaken for a Messerschmitt Bf 109 and later an Italian Macchi C.202 by Allied intelligence, leading to its nickname Tony given by the United States War Department. The design was originally based on the Kawasaki Ki 60 but never entered production. The Ki 61 was unique as the only mass-produced Japanese fighter of the war to use a liquid-cooled inline-V engine. More than 3,000 Ki 61s were manufactured, and they saw action during the Doolittle Raid in April 1942 and throughout the war. The Ki 61 was designed by Takeo Doi and Shin Owada in response to a 1939 request for two fighters using the Daimler-Benz DB601AA engine. Production models used a Kawasaki-licensed DB601 engine called the Ha-40. The Ki 60 was meant to be a heavily armed interceptor, while the Ki 61 was designed as a more versatile general-purpose fighter for offensive and air superiority roles at lower to medium altitudes. Both fighters shared a similar construction with all-metal semi-monocoque fuselages, three-spar wings, and alloy-framed control surfaces. The Ki 60 took priority and flew in April 1941. While work on the Ki 61 began in December 1940, incorporating lessons learned from the Ki 60. The Ki 61 had an oval cross-section fuselage that tapered into a semi-triangular shape behind the canopy. The engine bearers were integral to the forward fuselage, with fixed cowling side panels, allowing only the top and bottom panels to be removed for servicing. The aircraft featured a rectangular supercharger air intake on the port side of the cowling. It was armed with synchronized 12.7mm Ha-103 machine guns, staggered in position. The ammunition capacity was limited, and the aircraft had a self-sealing fuel tank behind the pilot's seat and an armored windshield. The liquid-cooled engine's radiator and oil cooler were located below the fuselage, covered by a fairing with an adjustable exit flap. The Ki 61 had evenly tapered wings with an aspect ratio of 7.2, featuring 3 spars, a main spar, a war and truss spar, and 2 auxiliary spars. The rear spar housed the split flaps and ailerons, while the front spar held the undercarriage pivot points. The aircraft had a wide undercarriage track and partially self-sealing fuel tanks in each wing. The first Ki 61 prototype flew in December 1941, impressing test pilots with its self-sealing fuel tanks, upgraded armament, and good dive performance. However, some senior officers were skeptical of its high wing loading compared to lighter, more maneuverable fighters like the Nakajima Ki 43. To address concerns, Kawasaki organized a fly-off between the Ki 61 and various other aircraft, where the Ki 61 demonstrated superior speed and good maneuverability. The Ki 61, powered by the DB601 engine, was considered underpowered compared to newer fighters with more powerful engines like the Republic P-47 Thunderbolt. The Ha-40 engine used in the Ki 61 had reliability issues, and its production was challenging due to the high manufacturing standards required. The Ki 61-2 variant had a larger wing area, more armor, and a more powerful Kawasaki Ha-140 engine but still faced engine reliability problems. Ultimately, the Ki-61 suffered from shortcomings in armor protection and engine performance in operational service, leading to the consideration of a new engine for the aircraft. The Ki-61, with its distinctive appearance compared to typical Japanese fighters, was initially mistaken by the Allies for a German or Italian aircraft, possibly a Messerschmitt Bf 109. In early reports, it was codenamed Mike when believed to be German but later became known as Tony because of its resemblance to Italian planes. These new Ki-61 Hien fighters were first used in combat in early 1943 during the New Guinea campaign. They were initially deployed to units like the 23rd Chutai and the 68th Sentai in Wewak and the 78th Sentai in Rabaul. However, the challenging environment of jungles, adverse weather, and a lack of spare parts quickly hampered their effectiveness. Teething problems, including engine failures, affected the Ki-61, and it faced increasing challenges as the Allies improved their air forces. While the Japanese Army Air Force initially had success in the campaign, the Allies' reorganization and reinforcement of their air capabilities eventually gave them the upper hand. The Japanese also suffered high non-combat losses during this time, exemplified by the 78th Sentai losing 18 out of 30 Ki-61s during transit between Truk and Rabaul. As a result, the older Ki-43 continued to play a significant role in the JAF's fighter capability. Despite its problems, the Ki-61 Hien raised concerns among Allied aviation circles. Allied pilots found it challenging to deal with the new Japanese fighter, especially because it couldn't be easily escaped by going into a dive, as they could with lighter Japanese fighters. General George Kenney, the Allied Air Force's commander in the Southwest Pacific, realized that his Curtiss P-40s were outclassed and requested more Lockheed P-38 Lightnings to counter the new threat. However, despite the Ki-61's effectiveness, the increasing numerical strength of Allied bomber units and inadequate anti-aircraft defenses led to significant losses for Japanese units. For example, during attacks in August 1943, about 174 out of 200 Japanese aircraft based in the Wewak area were lost. By the end of the campaign, nearly 2,000 Japanese aircraft were lost to air attacks by up to 200 Allied aircraft at a time, with a substantial number being B-24 Liberators and B-25 Mitchells armed with fragmentation bombs. The Ki-61 was also used in various regions, including Southeast Asia, Okinawa, China, and as an interceptor against U.S. bombing raids over Japan, including against B-29 superfortresses. While initially mistaken for German or Italian aircraft, the Ki-61 could match the speed of Allied aircraft like the P-40 and was considered superior in many aspects. Although its early versions had lighter armament, it was still effective. Some argue that the Lockheed P-38 Lightning was measurably superior, and the Ki-61's self-sealing fuel tanks made it less prone to catching fire compared to other Japanese aircraft. The Ki-61's performance and agility were impacted by the added weight when its armament was increased, but it still maintained a maximum speed of 580 km per hour, 313 knots. The addition of cannon armament was necessary to effectively counter Allied bombers, which were difficult to shoot down with just 12.7 mm .50 in machine guns. Towards the end of the war, some Ki-61s were used in kamikaze missions to Kotai. The aircraft generally performed well in service, except for issues related to its liquid-cooled engine, which had a tendency to overheat when idling on the ground and suffered from oil circulation and bearing problems. The tactic of using aircraft to ram American Boeing B-29 Superfortresses was first observed in late August 1944 when B-29s attempted to bomb steel factories at Yaoda. Sergeant Shigeo Nobe intentionally rammed his Kawasaki Ki 45 into a B-29, causing severe damage to another B-29, which also crashed. This led to more such attacks as individual pilots saw it as a practical way to destroy B-29s. On November 7, 1944, the commander of the 10th Hiko Shurdan Air Division made ramming attacks an official policy by forming special ramming attack flights to counter B-29s at high altitudes. These aircraft were stripped of their fuselage armament and protective systems to reach the necessary altitudes. Captain Takashi Fujita organized a ramming flight called Hagakirtai Special Attack Unit within the 244th Hiko Sentai Fighter Group, which was part of the 10th Hiko Shurdan. This unit consisted of volunteers from the squadron of the 244th Hiko Sentai. First Lieutenant Toru Shinomiya led the Hagakirtai, a group formed to carry out ramming attacks on B-29s. On December 3, 1944, during a B-29 raid interception, Shinomiya rammed one B-29 but managed to land his damaged Ki 61, which had lost a significant part of its wing, back at the base. Sergeant Masawi Itagaki attacked another B-29 and had to parachute from his damaged aircraft, while Sergeant Matsumi Nakano rammed and damaged a B-29 from the 498th Berg before crash landing his stripped-down Ki 61 in a field. The existence of the ramming unit had been kept confidential until then but was officially disclosed as the Shinten Saikutai Body Attack Detachment by the Defense GHQ. Other Ki 61 pilots achieved recognition as well, including Major Terahiko Kobayashi of the 244th Sentai, who was credited with a dozen victories primarily through conventional attacks against B-29s. Thank you for watching.